Hello, my name is Madison Whiteside, and this is my first year architecture portfolio. The designs that I'll be covering are the designs for my Design 1 and my Design 2 class. In Design 1, our project was to design a space to live, work, and play in. So for my design, I chose a library because libraries have been important to me since I was very little. I spent a lot of time with my mother in libraries, and later in high school, I ended up volunteering in our school's library, helping to shelve books, check out books to people, and I assisted with the book audits. My concept statement for this project was to elevate the human condition by providing the space and place for education and future growth. To begin, I mainly just touch on how libraries are important to developing committees and the fact that they're a communal resource that is practically free depending on where you live and how the community around you work. For starters, I have my elevations on the side. This is my west elevation and my north elevation. My west elevation mainly covers my study rooms and the library itself, and my north elevation shows the residential section and my maker spaces. Some libraries have maker spaces, which are just areas in which people can learn how to do things like sew, 3D print. They're basically the stuff areas of libraries where people can learn more technical skills, more things to do with their hands. My library includes restrooms, study rooms, a librarian's office, maker spaces. My residence includes 1 bedroom and two bathrooms and a kitchen. My library spaces also include a garden space and a quiet pier, which is basically just where the people in the study rooms can go out and look at the water on the site if they feel like it. It's just designed for a serene area in case you're just not studying and you just want to be alone, then this would be the area in which you would do that. For my Design 2 project, we were to design a sacred space where we could worship, reflect, and meditate. So my design for this is Tri-Faith Summit, which says the excellence of legacies will endure through the pain of hardship, time, and loss. The interesting thing about this project was not only were we designing a sacred space, but we were also designing a memorial. And because the site is on campus, it's behind the school where the graveyard is for the Alta Vista plantation, because as everybody knows, this used to be a plantation, and so there are a lot of unmarked graves, a lot of bodies that really nobody knows how many there are. So a really big inspiration for my monument actually was the original 8 students of Reveiw, because they were crucial to building all of this. So with all of that in mind, I first looked at our site. So as I said, it was behind the school, and because of that, nobody really goes down that road, so there wasn't going to be a lot of circulation. The views were also really nice. It was mainly trees and just this open area, so I thought that it would be a really good idea to kind of capitalize on those views. The solar path the area is already open, so it gets a lot of natural lighting, and the wind kind of forms this channel through the trees, and so there would be wind, but because of how I was going to orient my building, there wouldn't be much of a worry about that. As for noise, one of the threats was that there have been gunshots heard in the area because, once again, it is a forest, so there's probably hunting going on and just animal noises. Also, the noise from the water and whatever wildlife may be around there. And so, from the site analysis, my next step was creating iterations based off of the things that I had observed from our site. So my first one was this area where it was cyclical. So the way it worked was you can enter through either side and exit through the other side, because both sides led up to the memorial, which is going to have names of important people in Prairie View history, like past presidents, the past names of Prairie View. It would be a museum kind of experience. And then my second iteration, I wanted the visitors to be able to walk through the memorial so that way they could really be a part of it. So I wanted to play on this kind of yin-yang thing with the water. So it would be the purity and organic nature of water versus the more profane and structured nature of just the land and the materials. So I wanted there to be a kind of disconnect, but in a way that made sense before you got into the sacred space where you were able to just be one with the nature. Because in my personal experience, I believe that nature is where both the profane and the natural come to life, so that way you can really get the best of both worlds. My final design ended up being a sort of compromise between both of them. I still had this cyclical project, and there is a way to interact directly with the memorial. My final design includes pillars of varying sizes for the original 8 and a triangular area where you can step inside. It decreases about 2 feet downward, so that way you, as soon as you walk up into the site, you can go down and just immediately be greeted with the memorial. You can be greeted with the sacred space, and you can just really be able to have that moment with nature, but also the future, because the triangle kind of expands your view to make you look up. And so that was my main thought towards that. The circulation is very cyclical, just like my first iteration. You go in through one side, the sacred space is in the back, and there are 2 private sacred spaces where you can just look through and be able to be one with nature. And on the sides, you have the outdoor exhibits where there would be donor pieces, sculptures, or sometimes even things that visitors can leave to show, hey, we were here in the museum space. So I wanted it to be very interactive. For my axonometric, you can mainly see the heavy inspiration I got from triangles. There are triangular motifs everywhere in this project. One of the hardest parts to incorporate was definitely the windows, because I had to figure out how I was going to get the triangle shape still down, but also still have that room for people to walk in for the little lounge area in the front. So I ended up having to kind of bend the triangle up, but still keep that same shape. Everything is triangles. And then in the back, you have the walls, the stained glass. There's just a lot going on. So the visitors would still move in that elliptical space, and the windows would create a really well lit environment. So this second part was mainly seeing how people would actually move. And then the foundation just really hammers on the fact that all of this comes from a singular triangle, which is why the design is called Tri-Faith Summit. So one of the most fun parts about any project is definitely figuring out how we're going to go about it. And a lot of the times architects use these process models called parties. So for my parties, I created models based on space, circulation and hierarchy, transformation, and because this part of the project was a group project, the final one in the corner was from one of my classmates, Valerie Pineda, in which she created the original inspiration for a triangle. Later on in our precedent studies, we found a temple in Brazil, actually, that was a triangle. So both of us was like, this was perfect. And so for my first model, I was really touching on just the levels and structure, because from this project, I wanted to see how I could create a structure using only triangles, because that is exactly what that architect had did. And then for my second model, I used those same triangles in a more organic nature to see how I could play with shape using the same shape, so really creating just a different form using those. For my circulation and hierarchy, one of my words for this one was really important to me, was interlude. I wanted to create a place where people could create a circle around something but then have a moment of rest. And one of my presidents, Dr. Vishnu Vardhan's Memorial Complex, really helped with that, because that project really showed me how to create a hierarchy. And on the side, we just have my process sketches where I was trying to figure out how I wanted my designs to go for my parties. And finally, we have my final elevations in my sections to mainly show how my building is organized and what the division of rooms looks like. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. If you would like to look at my portfolio for yourself, I would leave the link in the description below, so please check that out if you're interested. Thank you so much.